Hey guys, it's Jasper, and today I'm going to be talking about Don Bluth's adaptation of Thumbelina. And yes, I have two copies of the movie that are the same, but different cover art. So, you know where my biases lie. Last week I did a reading of Hans Christian Andersen's Thumbelina. It's a lovely, lovely story, so if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about what the differences are between the adaptations, between the book and the adaptation, but mostly I'm going to be talking about why I love this movie. Because if you've seen it, you'll understand that perhaps it does need some explaining. Now today I'm not doing a reading because I certainly can't read the movie, or I guess I could, but why would I? And I decided to give you guys a little bit of a synopsis. So for today's synopsis reading and discussion, I'm going to be pairing our talk on Don Bluth's Thumbelina with a sweet, yum, white wine because Thumbelina is sweet and soft and something like that. I don't know. So, as always guys, pour yourself something yummy to drink, relax, enjoy, and let's talk about Don Bluth's Thumbelina. Cheers. Synopsis time.
So there's an old woman, and she's really sad because she's all alone. And so she goes to a good witch, and the good witch is like, here's a seed. And so she takes the seed and she plants it in a flower pot, and then a flower grows. And then out of the flower comes Thumbelina. And she names her Thumbelina because she's the size of a thumb. Now, everything is like fine, it's good times on the farm, except that Thumbelina starts to get kind of sad because she realizes that she's the only one her size, and she's kind of like, I'm kind of sad because I'm kind of alone. And so one night her mom is reading like fairy tales, and Thumbelina's like, boo, no, read a fairy tale about people like me. Aren't there people like me? And her mom is like, oh yeah, I forgot, they're called fairies. And she reads her a story, and Thumbelina loves it. And then that night, Thumbelina is visited by a fairy, and they fall in love, and then he happens to be the fairy prince. So it's like, you know, fairy of all fairies to kind of be meeting when you're a big fan of fairies. So then the prince is like, I'm gonna come back, and Thumbelina's like, cool. But then, that night, Thumbelina is captured by a toad who takes her away and is like, guess what? You're gonna marry my toad son. And Thumbelina's like, I don't think I wanna do that. And she's like, you're gonna do it. And then she sings a song, and it kind of confuses Thumbelina for a while, and Thumbelina's like, maybe this is the life for me. But then she remembers she doesn't wanna marry the toad, but it's too late because they've left her on a lily pad, and she's stuck, and she's sad. Now then this bird Giacomo, who we met at the beginning, who sort of narrates the whole story, comes and is like, why are you crying? And she's all like, I'm on this lily pad. And so then he has some fishes come and they nibble at the lily pad stem, and the lily pad starts to float down the water. And one thing leads to another, and Giacomo helps her get on land, hooks her up with the jitterbugs, who are going to help her take her home, which is her #1 goal in the movie. But then a beetle comes and steals her and is like, you're going to sing and dance for my friends. And Thumbelina's like, no. But then he's like, I'm going to do it anyway. So he steals her away and introduces her to her friends at the beetle ball, and it's all a hit until they realize she's human, and they're like, boo, she's so ugly. And so then the beetle, just drops her off and is like, you're too ugly for me. And this makes Thumbelina real sad, and she's crying. And then Giacomo finds her and is like, why are you crying? And she's like, the beetle said I was ugly. And Giacomo is kind of confused and gets real with her and is like, yeah, but you don't love the beetle, you love the prince. And the prince thinks you're like, hot, 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 hot. So who cares what the beetle thinks? And she was like, oh yeah, that's right, I need to get home. And he's like, you do need to get home. And he flies off because he's been trying to find the veil of the fairies for Thumbelina. And so she sets off on home. Except winter strikes, and Thumbelina gets real cold, and so she tries to live in an old shoe, and a mouse comes and finds her. And Thumbelina wakes up in the mouse's house. And the mouse is like, you're so stupid. You could have died in that old shoe. You're gonna live with me now, and I'm gonna hook you up. Oh yeah, P.S. the prince is also dead. And Thumbelina's like, no! But the mouse doesn't care because she's really practical, and she's like, time to move on, Thumbelina. Now, what Thumbelina doesn't know is that this whole time she's been on her adventure to find her way home, the prince has been looking for her. And at one point, he falls into some water, and then, because the seasons change in like a second in this movie, the water freezes. And then the beetle and the toad, who have been looking for the prince because they want to kill him so that the toad can marry Thumbelina, they find him, and they're like, he dead. And so this spreads around that the prince is dead. But the jitterbugs find the prince in this like ice cube, and they thaw him out, and he's like, I'm gonna find my girl. Meanwhile, Thumbelina has been going to visit the mole with the mouse. And the mouse makes Thumbelina like bring crumpets and sing for the mole, and the mole is just like, oh my gosh, this girl be so hot. I'm sad and lonely, Miss Mouse. Can you tell Thumbelina I want to marry her? And the mouse is like, sure, because the mole gives the mouse a gold coin, and the mouse is very practical. So then the mouse brings Thumbelina back to her house and is like, you're gonna marry the mole. And Thumbelina's like, no. But then the mouse sings a song, Thumbelina kind of gets confused, and so now she's kind of going along with it. Like she did with Jitterbug and the toad, the song sort of really confuses her. Then, while she's staying with the mouse and visiting with the mole is like, yo, check out this dead bird I found in my tunnel. Because the mole hates birds and hates the sun and hates flowers, hates everything that Thumbelina loves the most. And he's like, check out this dead bird. And Thumbelina's like, oh my gosh, that's my friend. And so she's super, super sad, but the mole and the mouse are just like, dead bird, who cares, right? One less bird to twitter about. And Thumbelina is like, whoa, this bird is my friend, and he's not dead. And so she nurses him back to health, and he gets better. And when he gets better, he's like, yo, fly away with me. We're going to go to the Vale of the Fairies. We'll find it together this time. And Thumbelina's like, no, I have to stay and marry the mole. And he's like, you don't love the mole. And she's like, it's complicated, Giacomo. But then the wedding day comes, and Thumbelina, as she's walking up the aisle, and like, first of all, Thumbelina looks real rough. Her hair is just a mess. Her dress is just not anything to brag about. She looks like a mess. She's walking up the aisle, and while she's doing this, all of a sudden she remembers the prince, and his ghost sort of visits her, like singing in her ear. And she's like, I was going to marry the prince because I loved him. Maybe I shouldn't marry the mole because I don't love him. So when she gets down the aisle, and the mole is like, you know, starting the vows, because as they're walking up the aisle, the priest is already delivering the marriage vows. It gets to Thumbelina, and he's all like, would you take this mole to be your lawfully wedded, blah, 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 blah. And Thumbelina is like, never will I ever. And the mouse is like real mad, and is like, Thumbelina! You know, because she's getting a gold coin out of this. And the priest is like, what? And the mole is like, And then the toad jumps out, and it's like, yeah, that's right, because she's marrying me. But Thumbelina's like, no, I don't want to marry you. And then the beetle hops out, and he's like, hey, toots. And she's like, get out of my way. And she climbs up this thing of like gold, and out of the ground, and she's out. And she realizes that winter is over, spring is coming, and the sun is out. And she's so happy. And then her friend Giacomo comes, and is like, get on my back, let's fly away. And so Thumbelina tells him, like, all about everything that's happened to her, but he's not really listening because he's trying to pay attention to, like, where he's going and, like, keep sense of directions. Brings her to the Vale of the Fairies, but it's just a patch of weeds. And Thumbelina's like, this is stupid, this is a patch of weeds. And he's like, sing! And she's like, no. And he's like, sing! And she's like, no. And sing! And she's like, fine. So then she sings the song, the patch melts, the prince comes, he's all like, marry me! And she's like, yeah! And they kiss, and then they get married, and she gets wings, and then roll credits, because the movie is done. I think we just accomplished something great.
Now, first things first, what makes the Don Bluth Thumbelina so different than Hans Christian Andersen's Thumbelina? Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff. In Hans Christian Andersen's story, Thumbelina isn't longing to find somebody like her. She doesn't feel alone. She also doesn't learn about fairies until the very end. The prince and Thumbelina don't meet until the end. There's no beetle toad trying to find her subplot. Giacomo isn't looking for the Vale of the Fairies. Giacomo is not also as goofy or comical. There's no jitterbugs, there's no beetle ball. The mouse doesn't really have that much character, but one of the big differences is the relationship between Thumbelina and her mother. In Hans Christian Andersen's story, there is no relationship. The woman is sad and lonely, she has this little girl. Nothing is said about the kind of relationship they have, and then her whole story isn't about going home, her whole story is about having an adventure. And in Don Bluth's version, Thumbelina, you know, clearly has a relationship with her mother, there's love there, and a big part of her journey is mother will be so worried, I need to get home, you know, home to mother. I think that on one way, I love in Hans Christian Andersen's how it's just about the adventure, and I think that this makes Thumbelina a little bit stronger, a little bit more independent, but on the other foot, Don Bluth's version makes Thumbelina a little bit more human. It's human to miss your mom. It's human to think that the right way to go is back where you're from, back where things were safe and things were good. So there are differences, but I love both of them. I think both give very different things. Now, there are many things that are problematic with this film.
She is, you know, right from the beginning, just set on, I gotta find a man, and it's that I gotta find a man plot that we see, like, again and again and again. She's kind of stupid, and by kind of stupid, I mean, like, she's dumb, she's stupid. She falls for really lame lines. She doesn't know her mind most of the time. She's just very easily convinced. She can't seem to really help herself until the end. She cares far too much about what other people want of her rather than what she wants and what she needs and what's good for her. It follows the meet cute plot, and then they marry in the end, and she doesn't know the prince, but she loves him.
So from the outside, yeah, it looks real problematic. There's problems with this film, for sure. But what I want to talk about is why I love this film. And more than why I love this film, why I think this film is actually very important. And there are two main reasons why I love this film. And the first one is because I am Thumbelina. When I was completing my undergrad and my master's, I used to use movies as like fake breaks. I would put them on in the background, like movies that I knew really well. I'd put them on in the background so that I could feel like I was taking a break and watching a movie, but in reality I would just keep working and it would just be background noise. And Thumbelina increasingly became one of these movies that I watched again and again and again. And it became my go-to for when I was descending into the academic pits of despair, the times when it's like 3 a.m. and you just have a thesis for your 10-page paper that's due in like 7 hours. And I used to put Thumbelina on and think, if Thumbelina, who is like so dumb, can get through this and like find her goal and like find her way back, certainly myself, I this, you know, academic can get this 10-page paper done. I can make it through to the end. If Thumbelina can do it, anybody can. So after 7 years of university, after rewatching Thumbelina, I don't know how many times, I discovered the genius of Thumbelina, and that is, we are all Thumbelina, or in the very least, I am Thumbelina. The first thing being the simple fact that I long to find people like myself, and sometimes suffer from the loneliness of not having, you know, company of people who are like me, who love books and reading and writing and, you know, see things that aren't there, sort of creatively speaking. The second thing is, my plans often get hijacked for what other people want from me or ask of me. The third basic thing is that I make the same mistakes again and again and again and again. And so as dumb as Thumbelina seems for like saying no to things and then going along with it once there's the song, even though I haven't, you know, agreed to sort of marry a mole or dance at the Beetle Ball, I have agreed to things that I didn't want to do. And I agreed to things that I should know by now I should just say no to. I make the same mistakes again and again. Number 4, I've fallen for some pretty dumb lines. So who am I to judge Thumbelina? Number 5, no matter how many times I say, I'm doing this is what I'm doing, there are countless distractions which keep you in delay. Thumbelina and I are like Odysseus, shipwrecked again on yet another island, keeping us from home, and we have to remember again, oh yeah, I was trying to go home. This was the thing I was trying to do. And number 6, like Thumbelina, the place where I'm trying to go to, the home, is this place that seems like it's behind me, the thing that I know, but in reality, in truth, it's the place in front of me. Because although Thumbelina's journey is about going home, she doesn't go home. She finds a new home with the prince and among the Vale of the Fairies and among people like her, and that is home. But she has no way of knowing that home isn't behind her but in front of her. And like myself, the home I'm trying to find is in front and not behind. And that makes me think about what Iris Smile says in Dating Tips for the Unemployed in her introduction to the book, which is an excellent read if you haven't done it. The book is in the way that James Joyce's book Ulysses was the everyday Irishman's Odyssey. Her book is an odyssey for the young people of today, and it's a fantastic book. And in the introduction, she talks about the term nostalgia and how it was coined to actually mean homesickness. On the assumption that home is a place left behind, nostalgia is commonly understood as a yearning for the past. But for many a young person seeking their place in the world, home is an idea with stronger ties to the future, embodied by a person or place not yet seen, making nostalgia an equally apt diagnosis for the strange ache that often defines early adulthood. And this is, such a point of resonance in Thumbelina, is that as much as she is striving to go home, her home is a place forward, not behind her. And this isn't something she learns until the very end, where she finds this home. The second thing that I love about Thumbelina is that Thumbelina is somebody I hope I can be. And what I mean by this is Thumbelina is stupid and helpless and compliant with everything. But in the end, she has a true stroke of strength, change, and decisiveness, in which when she is walking down the aisle to marry the mole, she realizes, I don't have to do this. Now, for so long, I always thought Thumbelina was making this choice on the basis that the prince is still alive. And so she's making this life-changing choice on the basis of someone else still. And so it was just you know, Thumbelina's weak and problematic. But what I realized rewatching this movie as an adult, again, like a million zillion times, is that Thumbelina makes this choice when she thinks the prince is still dead. And this is important because she isn't refusing the mole on the basis of the prince. She isn't refusing some choice on the basis of someone else, but on the basis of herself. She's not going to be happy with the mole. She loves the sun and the flowers and the birds, and these are all things he hates. And if she marries him, she has to belong to this world in which she has no access to these things. And this will kill Thumbelina, like in the person she is. And so the choice she makes is on the basis of her own necessity, rather than sort of, well, I'm not going to marry the mole, I'm going to marry the prince. She makes a choice on her own. I would rather be by myself without security that the mole can provide. When she refuses the mole, she refuses the security he can provide. One, in the way of like taking care of her, because she has no idea. I think this is her first like season of life. She has no idea that winter will ever break into spring. She thinks it's going to be winter forever. And how can she survive on her own? So she has to marry the mole. But she chooses not to marry him and forfeit the security, knowing she's going to have to return to that old shoe where she'll probably die. But she would rather do that. She would rather forsake the security of the mole for the sake of what she knows is right for herself. And this is something in my life I hope I would continue to choose. That I would follow my passion over submitting to security. Ultimately, Thumbelina is a good reminder that sometimes we are very, very, very stupid. And it is the very simple thing of, what do you want? What did you set out to get in the first place? What does your heart say you want? The very simple and cheesy and corny line of, follow your heart. And that brings me into Jacquemo's song, which, you know, the Follow Your Heart song, which is very cheesy and ridiculous, you know, you're sure to do impossible things if you follow your heart. But there's truth in those words, because if you follow your heart, follow your passion over submitting to security, you have an opportunity to do things that others thought impossible. One of the lines that I love in his song, and again, as corny as it is north or south or east or west, where to point your shoes. Which direction is the best? If the choosing gets confusing, maybe it's the map you're using. You don't need a star to guide you, just close your eyes and look inside you. And I know that sounds so cheesy and basic, but for me it's so true. And those lines, if the choosing gets confusing, maybe it's the map you're using, is like so important. And even now makes me just want to cry, because I have been, you know, already in my not so much life, you know, have not lived too many years, but in the bit of time that I have had, I've been at crossroads and found myself thinking, what do I even want? What do I believe is true for myself? What's good for myself? Is this the right thing to be doing? Is this the safe thing to be doing? Or am I playing it too safe by doing this and rather than doing this? And it's difficult and it's hard and it breaks you down to sometimes close your eyes and ask, what is it that I want? Not what is safe to do. What is the thing that will make people happy? What is it that I want to do? What is it the thing that I set out to do in the first place? Who am I? And what do I want out of this great big world? So I love Thumbelina because I think we are all Thumbelina sometimes. And yes, there are great deviations from the story, but I think they're lovely, and both adaptations provide different things. As always, guys, I'd love to hear what you think about this. I know that there are loads of things that are problematic with Thumbelina, and sure, go ahead and comment those down below. But also, are there any points of resonance? And do you find that you are perhaps Thumbelina? Let me know down below. As always, guys, I hope whatever you've been drinking, that it's been good, that the synopsis I gave and the discussion that followed was a fair match. Cheers, and have a beautiful day.
You're sure to do impossible things if you follow your heart. Your dreams will follow magical wings if you follow your heart. North or south or east or west, where to point your shoes? If the choosing gets confusing, maybe it's the map you're using. You don't need a chart to guide you. Close your eyes and look inside you.